Well done.
See, this is what happens when you get three adults in a virtual room trying to figure their way through technology. Brilliant. Yes, indeed.
Someone should be able to sort it out, yeah.
They should indeed. All right, okay. Jeff, would you like to introduce this one since I did the previous Sophie interview?
I'm afraid
there's no pressure, of course, mate.
Yeah, my intro is not as spectacular, but...
we've never done as spectacular an intro as that ever since. So
that was so impressive. It was really, really good. No pressure, Jeff.
No pressure, Jeff.
You probably just better say, welcome, Sophie Aldred. That's probably the easiest way around.
Maybe I'll just leave that little bit on, actually, there.
I could welcome myself.
There you go. That'll do.
Well, in fact, we spoke to Colin Baker recently, and he did the intro, didn't he?
He did, actually. Yeah, because I just felt the pieces. I was so nervous interviewing Colin because, back to my teenage years and everything, and Colin was kind of like one of my big doctors, and it was like, and I'm speaking to Colin right here. Oh my gosh,
Colin's a legend.
He really is.
He was great, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and
he really is.
We said to him, so there's rumours going around about classic doctors in the centenary episode and things, and anything, did you do a voiceover for it or anything? And he outright lied to us, didn't he, Paul?
Jeff.
Did he lie?
Which is not surprising, as it was the week off, wasn't it?
If he'd said, no, I didn't do a voiceover for it, that wouldn't have been a lie.
No, he said I wasn't invited, didn't he? He said I wasn't invited. Yeah.
Oh well, maybe that's true as well. Maybe he invited himself.
Yeah, maybe they did a Five-ish Doctors thing and just kind of snuck in and posed as the holograms, and it was too late. It was only in post when anybody realised what they'd done.
Maybe
actually, he didn't. They were very much invited because I was there that day.
Oh, were you?
So exciting, yeah.
Oh,
it looks as though we don't need an introduction, doesn't
it?
No,
we'll just crack on.
Just going on, yeah.
I'll tell you about this day because it really was so lovely. What happened was, I did my bit with Sylvester in the morning, and I'd actually done my part of it in a dank cave in the Brecon Beacons.
So I had a question about that, whether you were together for it or how they did it.
Well, for the first bit of it, for my bit in the cave, it was actually it meant scrambling over some rocks and getting into this little tiny gap in the cave, and there's no way Sylvester would have managed to get up there these days. So I did that on my own, and there was literally only room for me and the cameraman, and the lens was just like right here in your face. And it was great. It was very intimate, very very lovely to do. And another thing was, I don't think I don't think this is this working at all.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
You can. Okay. I'm not sure whether the mic's working, but there you go. Anyway, So what they usually did when somebody wasn't there was have the first AD to read in the lines or something like that. And with all due respect, the lovely young first AD had this beautiful Welsh accent, and I couldn't quite I thought, Let's think. And Barnaby Edwards, who was inside the Dalek, who we'd just been filming that bit, he was still hanging around. And I said to him, if I get the okay from Jamie, the director, would you mind reading in Sylvester's lines? Because, brilliant actor that Barnaby is. I thought it would just be really great to have that whole atmosphere. So I asked Jamie, he said, yeah, great idea. And so Barnaby was sitting there perched on a rock precariously there as well. So there was just me and Barnaby and the cameraman and a lighting guy. And it was quite sort of atmospheric anyway in the cave. So that was easy to do, that bit. And then a week or 2 weeks later, Sylvester came down and did his bit in the studio. And obviously then they put us together. But I was asked to go down to read in the lines. I said, yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
So I went down, and Sylvester was obviously in his costume. And it was just so lovely because he and I, there we were in the studio, standing like inches apart from each other with him in his costume. And it was actually quite a moving thing to do, and apparently loads of cast and crew came crowding round to have a look at us, And so I did that bit, and then that was going to be my last thing, and off I would go back home. And then I got out to my trailer, and there was Colin getting his robes on, and there was Sylvester, getting changed into his robes, and David Bradley was there. And we started chatting, and we started, just having a really lovely time together. And I thought, there's no way I can go now.
You can't leave now.
No, I can't go now. Leaving the party. So I said, would you mind if I stayed and hung around a bit? And they said, no, of course not. So I kind of hung around and sat with them. And then, because Jodie was there for a little bit, but she wasn't there for the whole time. So, and then obviously the other doctors, they weren't there either. There was Paul and Peter couldn't make it for that day. So in the end, Jamie said, Sophie, would you mind reading in the lines? So I also played 3 doctors on that day, reading in the lines, and it was the best day. It was like being at the best Doctor Who
Sophie,
convention ever. And then Chris Chibnall came just specially for that day as well, and he couldn't believe it either because he's such a huge fan. We would all just sitting around while they were setting up shots and everything like that. And there was and Jodie came along. So there was Jodie, David, Sylvester, Colin, and Chris Chibnall and me. We were all just we were so happy to be with each other. It was just great.
That's just like a proper Doctor Who geek fest there, isn't it?
It really was.
And that's all on TV as well. I mean, I know you guys get together for conventions and everything, and that's wonderful. But actually being together to make a Doctor Who TV show episode, all of you in that space.
It was quite something. And then it was funny because obviously everybody had to keep it super secret. And as we were leaving the studio after they'd finished their bit, the Cybermen were getting kitted up, ready to do a bit on green screen. And they were like, because it hadn't been on the call sheet or anything. And they were like, and they knew they couldn't say anything. It was like, oh, wow, look at all those doctors.
Oh my goodness.
It's we've talked about this before, Paul, but the secrets that have been kept in this era have been absolutely incredible, and everyone's hung on to all of this stuff about Power of the Doctor for over a year now. And the fact that we sat down and watched it on Sunday and actually were genuinely surprised and shocked.
Genuinely surprised.
Amazing. Like my wife was in the room when I was watching, and she knew you were in it, Sophie. And then when Colin turned up, I went, he lied to us. Yes. And then Sylvester appeared, I was like, oh my god, like this, and like Paul's just brilliant. And also we spoke straight after the episode on Sunday. It took us about a minute, didn't it, Paul? We just couldn't talk. Yeah. We were so kind of like, wowed by everything. But what was so nice about everyone returning was that, of course, there was a fan service element to it. But Ace and, her doctor got that lovely moment together in the cave, which, it brought, a tear to our eye, and the same with Janet really and Peter. Yeah. And then, the scenes with Jodie and the doctors, and it kind of, it did something with the characters, didn't it? It moved everyone forward, and there was a bit of a resolution of things. I thought it was beautifully done.
Yes, it was really, really well done, I thought. And it's what everybody wanted to see. But I think going back to the secrets, I think it was amazing because a lot of people knew, when you think about all the cast and all the crew. I mean, the cast that used to and keeping secrets, but you would think that maybe somebody in the crew or somebody who was like to do with the editing, they may have let something slip. In fact, I've since spoken to a couple of fans who the scene with all the companions, the sort of the AA meeting at the end of the Doctor's Companions group, which I thought was a wonderful scene. that was another one of those ones which you just didn't want to miss. And Jodie, who wasn't even in that scene, she came along to
they showed it on one of the behind the scenes videos that they just put out over the weekend. So it was talking with Jodie, wasn't it, Paul? And she came down just to see everyone and be part of it, which was really nice.
She did, yeah. It was so lovely, and we were all hanging around for ages and with each other, which is really nice. But there's a fan who I spoke to at a convention, and he said, "Oh, I knew that all those people were going to be in it, and I knew that you were going to be in it, but I didn't say a word because he'd been. I think he was something like the caretaker of the hall where we shot that scene. Yeah. And although he wasn't there on the day." He was clearing up afterwards, and he found a call sheet. And it said, a bit of script or something, and it said Ace and Tegan on it. So he knew that we were going to be in it. But I mean, he said I knew that I wasn't going to say anything, and he kept. Yeah. But for all those people, I really take my hat off, because they could have just spoiled it for everybody, and they really didn't.
Yeah, there's like a mutual respect, isn't there? I think with something this big, it goes beyond personal sort of, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't know, some sort of ego boost, or look at me, everyone I know is secret that somebody else that none of you knew, and I'm going to blab it, and I'm going to get loads of likes on social media, and my profile's going to go sky high and viral and everything, which could easily happen because information spreads so quickly. I mean, I took myself off social media completely for a week before this episode, because there's always a risk that someone puts an image or even just a cryptic line somewhere and it starts something in your head, and you can even fill in the gaps with a lot of this stuff. So I didn't take any chances. I thought, okay, I know as much as anybody knows at this level, and I'm just going to enjoy the episode. And I tell you what, I mean, you're right. Seeing all the doctors again, seeing all the companions again at that AA meeting, and oh man, William Russell.
I know.
I just couldn't believe it. I'm feeling emotional now just thinking about it.
Yeah, he is.
And it's such a brilliant thing to have that continuity from the very first episode of Doctor Who right up to now. It's beautiful, isn't it? Really,
it really is. Yeah, so, and it was a good line that he had as well. Yeah, and I was so pleased they actually got him a line as well. And was it, excuse me, did you say her? Because of course he wouldn't know anything. You know, Ian Chesterton wouldn't know anything about regeneration at all. It wasn't even a thing when he left the first Doctor. So not only does the Doctor change, but he's a woman now, so it's brilliant. I love that.
Mind blowing, So, Sophie, there was an empty chair in the meeting there. Was that deliberate? Was that supposed to be?
Was there?
Yeah, I see. I didn't notice it. Someone pointed it out online. They said, "Oh, we like to think it was for Sarah Jane," and I said, "I didn't notice it."
Wow.
Did you spot that,
No,
Paul?
I did. I'd seen, there's quite a few conversations going on it. So as Jeff said, either it could be for Liz Sladen, Sarah Jane, or it could be for the next companion to be, or actually for any of us kind of watching, it's our space in our little meeting.
Oh, how bizarre. I can't remember that.
Or was it just somebody didn't turn up?
I think maybe somebody had gone to the loo in that shot or something. How bizarre.
We'll play that down and say it was all planned, and
I think that's lovely. I think that's really lovely. It reminds me of the way the Polish celebrate Christmas. They always lay a place. There's always an empty chair and a place. Yeah. For the unexpected guest.
That's nice.
It's beautiful.
It that way as
beautiful. Well. I like that idea.
So when we spoke last, Sophie, you'd just been revealed as a period.
It just been revealed. It had just been announced. We'd seen the trailer.
Your phone and everything had gone crazy. So I wondered what was it like on Sunday after the full episode had gone out? Was it like 10 times as mad for you?
It was completely bonkers and still is actually. People are tweeting all sorts and lots of new photos are coming out as well. Some I had no idea about. I've just seen one this morning, a really lovely one from somebody in America sent it to me, of me kneeling down when I've just got the jacket on, the Ace jacket
in the unit,
the hole in the
obviously.
floor. I love the idea that Ace has stashed all this stuff. She knows exactly where everything is all over unit. You know, she knows where the guns are. She knows where all the explosives are. She's got little cubby holes everywhere with her things in. I really like that.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, it's just like typical Ace, isn't it? Because of course she would do that. And of course she would have a parachute. And of course she would have souped up Nitro 999.
Yeah, of course she would.
I loved it.
Yeah. And I even like the fact right at the very beginning when that ladder comes out of the TARDIS, you know, it's Ace's ladder.
Yeah, of course.
Curse of Fenric.
Yeah.
It's great.
John Bishop's line was good. Couldn't they got him on wobbly ladder?
Oh yeah. So it's just great. Yeah. My phone has not stopped. And it's people who I wouldn't have expected to, like old school friends.
Oh, really?
People who I haven't seen for years and years, and it's wonderful.
There's been so much love on Twitter, isn't there, Paul, since Sunday night? You know, just a kind of overwhelming, unanimous enjoyment of the episode, and you know, we think the era went out on an absolute high. You know, they really kind of saved the best for last, and it just did everything, you know, shocks and laughs and emotion, and it was just wonderful. So when you got the call, it was from Andy Pryor, wasn't it, from your agent?
It was via my agent from Andy Pryor,
And then, so how much input did you have into things? Because you met with Chris, didn't you, and talked about things?
Yeah, we had a Zoom, and he said, you know, what do you think Ace would be doing now? And I kind of said, well, I think she'd probably be like she is in the book, At Childhood's End. And we discussed the idea that something had happened between her and the Doctor, and that she's got quite disillusioned in a way. And then he had this idea that some of the companions they'd got to know each other. He didn't say Tegan at the time because I don't think Janet had quite confirmed yet.
Right.
But you know, I love the idea that the companions have sort of found each other, and so Ace and Tegan have been like undercover, kind of looking after things in the Doctor's absence. I love that idea, and I think that's where the idea for what's alluded to with the Doctor saying, "I'm sorry, we fell out," you know, Ace says, and that was, of course, that was all from the book. And then I said, and I think she'd be like she is in the trailer for the Blu-ray as well. So she'd be this top executive, but she can't wait to get her hands on a baseball bat, you know. And he said, is there anything you'd like to do? And I said, well, when I was cast originally, I was cast because I could ride a motorbike. So don't suppose there's any chance of you being able to get insurance for a middle-aged woman riding a motorbike. He said, probably not, but anything else?
Well, I've always wanted to parachute off a high rise.
I've always wanted to parachute into the TARDIS. Yeah, so we had that instead. And so that was a complete surprise, actually, because
was it?
I hadn't got the script when I went down to for my costume fitting, because it was all quite last minute. And so what Chris had said on the Zoom was, I'm not quite sure how much of you we're going to be able to have in the episode, because we've got a lot to fit in. He said, we've got Daleks, Cybermen, the Master, we've got another returning companion. And I thought, I'm just going to be a cameo. And I was a bit like, you know, I didn't want to be ungrateful, but I was thinking, I wish it was a bit more.
Yeah.
He said, probably a couple of scenes or so. So I left that call feeling a little bit disappointed in a kind of ego actory way. And then I went down for the costume fitting. I'd also said to him, by the way, I've still got the jacket in the cupboard. Do you want that? He said, yeah.
Yes.
So I took the jacket down with me, you know, in a plastic bag. And Ray, the costume designer, carefully took it out of the bag in a sort of reverential manner. And I felt a bit embarrassed because I'd sort of slung it in this plastic bag.
Something like golden light that poured out.
Yes, I know. And they kept talking about when we did that shot, the coming out the floor with the jacket, the hero shot. And I was thinking, it's a jacket, you know, but obviously not to most people.
Than just a jacket.
anyway, so Ray said, "Oh, can we borrow it to copy?" And I said, why do you need a copy? Can't you use the real thing? He said, "Can we?" I said, "Yeah, of course, we'll just use the jacket." Anyway, so I said to him, "Oh, it's a real shame that Ace isn't doing more in the show, you know, that it's only a couple of scenes." He said, "Really?" He said, "That's not the script I've read. Did you know that in the script I've read, you're on a parachute, parachuting into the TARDIS?" I was like, yes, how amazing. And so I thought, oh, well, they're bound to cut it. And I kept thinking all the way through filming, oh, they're going to cut those bits. They're going to cut that. But actually, then Jamie realised very quickly. I think the very first day, the call sheet had stunt double for Ace and stunt double for Tegan. And I think they very quickly realised that I was mad enough to do all my own, and Janet kind of followed along, going swearing and effing and blinding at me. Anyway, so I was delighted, and the day that we were, well, a couple of days before we were going to shoot the parachute thing, Jamie came over to me and he said, "I've had this idea." He said, "I just wondered if you'd be up for it." He said, "I think if we get a dolly, you know, which is one of those sort of trolley things that you push along with, we could get a dolly and we could fix a plank to the top of it. And then we could have you lying down on it with the parachute. And then if I put a camera behind you, and then you can sort of like, then we can push you into the TARDIS like this, you know, really fast."
I commented on that, didn't I, Paul? I said there was a couple of shots in the episode that were quite clever. And one in particular was you parachuting into the TARDIS and then standing upright in it. And I kept thinking over the weekend, like over the last couple of days, how did they do that one?
Yeah,
you know,
it was hard for me to do that because I was lying and sort of like leaning up and kicking my legs, and then having to get into the TARDIS, get on the right spot, and then jump up and then release the parachute as well to get all that gubbins off, so that I could then walk forward. It was a bit of choreography.
It was a great shot. It reminded me of the one that Jamie did in Village of the Angels, where she goes up to the mirror and then
over the shoulder, and then the wings come out, and there's no actually a mirror there, you know, there's a double on it, and they've choreographed their movements and stuff, and it was a really clever shot that he did there. So the
he's a very, very clever man.
Really good.
He just has these amazing ideas, and he works it all out with little Doctor Who figures.
Oh yes,
we talked about that.
He films them like
in his bedroom with his on his duvet. I know
that's brilliant.
It's really great. He's a bit like the Doctor himself. He's sort of like very eccentric and excited. Really lovely guy. And then and then the rest of the parachute bit, I thought, I'd love to do it myself. He said, "We might just get you on a ladder or on a chair like this." And I was a bit disappointed. But then finally, my final day shooting, they got me up on a harness flying.
Did they?
You know, I was actually way above the ground, you know, doing the parachute. It was fantastic.
That's brilliant.
Oh, that's fabulous. I mean, that's such a Sophie/Ace thing to do, isn't it? I think it's brilliant to be able to do that.
Well, just before we you came online, Paul and I were talking, and we both said that you and Tegan were in the episode far more than we were kind of expecting, which is kind of what you were saying, and you were so integral to everything and really kind of, you know, drove the action and the same way that Yaz did as well. So it must have been really nice to kind of discover how much you were going to be in it and what you were going to get to do. Yes,
I was absolutely gobsmacked how much we were involved, and it was lovely. Working with Gemma was brilliant. The three of us got on like a house on fire.
Did you? Brilliant.
We're messaging each other yesterday. We said to each other, right, we must meet up afterwards and go for a walk in this because Janet lives down by the sea. We're all going to meet up and go for a walk. We haven't got around to it yet, but we definitely Gemma's always working, so and then another person that I thought Mandip was brilliant in the
Oh,
episode
so
as well.
good.
Fabulous.
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that at the end they were crying real tears. That was very emotional.
You can see it, can't you? It's just
that's that scene on top of
brilliantly
the
done.
TARDIS was like you said, Paul, both just holding it together. You know,
so beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is with Mandip, yes, those were real tears, but she's also just such a great actress. She was the sort of linchpin in that whole episode. She was the one who is kind of, you know, holding it all together, really.
Yeah.
And
she was driving
really,
a lot, wasn't she? I mean, again, we were talking about this, and it seemed to me that it was very much as much as it was about the Doctor and her final adventure and everything, it was the companions that were driving a lot of that story. You know, with things you and Janet were doing as well, the whole unit thing. Mandip's character Yaz actually rescuing the Doctor at the end and pulling it back into the TARDIS, and that gave us that wonderful scene with all of you sort of staring over Jodie, in pure regeneration fashion, you know, where you've always got the companions sort of looking over the Doctor and, you know, helping them through the process. It was oh man, it was so good, honestly.
So, Paul, did you know this? So the painting that
I don't
you
know
were
anything,
looking
mate.
at, Sophie,
I have no idea about anything. Sorry, go on.
But the missing painting in the gallery. So it was Friends of Ace on Twitter. I saw he tweeted you.
Did you see Aaron in his Ace costume?
So that painting, I can't remember what it was called, but it shows
it's La Belle Dame sans Merci.
And it's princess rescuing the knight, isn't it?
Beautiful pre-Raphaelite painting. I love the pre-Raphaelites, and that was my first day shooting, actually.
Right.
And so I stood in front of that painting for a long, long time while they were setting up the shot, and it was amazing to actually, because you never do that, do you? You go to an art gallery and you kind of look at paintings here and there. But I must have stood there for a total of probably an hour that day, looking at it. I mean, not all at once, but
I was going to say I couldn't do that these days, standing for an hour and in one spot. I'd do my leg in that, would I tell you? I won't be able to sit down after that. Oh, blimey.
But the painting, I've just I've fallen in love with it, because I know so much about it now, and all those little details, and you see how the painter has reflected the pink of her outfit in the soldier's armor. You know, it's really it's a beautiful picture. Yes, and then of course there was a green screen on.
Right, I wondered how they did it. Yeah, but it kind of parallels Yaz carrying the Doctor later, doesn't it, and rescuing her, which is nice.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
So we had a question come in from Kelly Rosen on Twitter, and she said you and Ace are her two favourite companions, and she loved the interaction between the two of you. And she said, what do you think Ace and Yaz might have talked about if they'd had a moment of stillness together, and what advice would Ace have given to Yaz about travelling with the Doctor?
Oh, well, it's funny because there is that shot, isn't there, where Tegan says something like, we used to be you, or something.
Yeah.
And I look at Tegan like, you know, shut up. And then the next shot you see me kind of looking quite fondly at Yaz. And I think that Ace would really appreciate Yaz, and really probably take her under her wing and offer her a job at her charity. I could see that happening, you know, and Yaz being a kind of a young, not as rebellious as Ace, but sort of I think Ace would appreciate her love of the Doctor, for sure. I think they'd probably get on quite well.
There was oh, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
I was just going to say, actually, because there's a similarity in a way between the both of them. They both started as quite damaged people. You know, they have a history. You know, we you know, Ace has a history. She was into explosions. We don't, you know, she's orphaned and everything else, and kind of just, you know, totally taken out of her life. Yaz has a whole story, you know, with running away and being bullied and depression and possibly suicide, and, you know, and that sort of stuff. And it's, you know, their time with the Doctor kind of brings them together. And I think those sort of stories, that, you know, that could possibly be like a connection, a shared narrative between Ace and Yaz.
Yes,
am I reading
I
too
think
much
that's
into it?
very true. No, I don't think you are at all. I think that it's funny because I think Ace's time with the Doctor probably taught her a lot about. She always wants to do good. Remember at the end of Remembrance of the Daleks, Ace says, "We did good, didn't we?"
Yeah, she asked that question.
She always wants to find the good in people, and then she gets very hurt by Mike and by Captain Sorin and and then Kara at the end of Survival. But she's a good person who wants to do good in the world, like Yaz. But I think and then there is this troubled side of her as well. So I think she would want to take Yaz under her wing, and I think she also appreciates what the Doctor has done for her as well.
I mean, it's interesting in a way because the Doctor is quite a disruptive element in the companions' lives, and yet also throughout the adventures becomes a kind of healing force as well, like the Doctor, I suppose, isn't it? Because I think, and Jodie's Doctor makes the point that you won't leave the TARDIS the same person as you came in, and I think we really saw that with Ace and with Tegan. Actually, with Tegan, it was I mean, that was a wonderful ending with Tegan, Janet, and Peter, because it was so unresolved. And of course, we don't really know what happened with Ace and the Seventh Doctor either, do we? We've got a few different ideas, but through the process of being with the Doctor, there seems to be a certain thing within companions who understand themselves a bit more and know what they're capable of and know their strengths and actually know that they can change things for the better. They can action positive change, which I think is a really important kind of lesson for all of us, you know, in some ways.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the companion represents the audience anyway.
Yes.
And so there you go. You've got through Doctor Who, you and I know
you can change the world.
Exactly. And heal yourself in some way. I think I love the ending with Dan as well, when he goes out from the TARDIS, because he says, I've seen wonderful things, and he recognizes that the time with the Doctor is incredibly special, but actually for him his choice is to leave, and that he wants to have a more normal life.
And we really liked that it was quite a realistic and believable departure, and one of the things we've liked is all the characters have been very human and very real across this era, and what their actions and the things that they do are, like I said, quite believable. And Dan had great experiences and it was wonderful, but he got shot in the visor, and I think he thought, this is a bit risky now, and it was quite nice that it wasn't a great big grand departure and world ending and all of that, and it felt right for him, and so it was nice then to see him back again at the end with Graham, and that they'd found each other. So I've got a quick question for Ian Banks on Twitter. He said he loves seeing you back in action, but he wanted to ask what actually happened to split up Ace and Seven. What's the real story as opposed to all the different versions out there? So what in your head, Sophie, what was the incident? Because there was hints, wasn't there, in that Childhood's End? But
there were. I think it's one of those wonderful unsolved things. So that you don't need to say it out loud. And I'm looking down because I'm actually looking for a message which I got from Sylvester straight afterwards. It was lovely. After a bit of loveliness, he says, I didn't know we fell out. He said. That was a surprise. He said, I thought we went off for a cup of tea. Did I make you pay? He said.
That's the cause of all the hurt afterwards.
Did that piss you off? And I replied, the tea was cold. And he went, oh, that makes sense.
The ultimate slight with tea.
So there's the answer.
That's what it is.
Okay.
It's all over a cold
cup of tea.
Typical Doctor has the best plans, but actually the important details are just not quite there.
Exactly. I was going to say, when you were mentioning Janet and and Peter as well, and the Doctor and Tegan. Wasn't it beautiful the way that Adric was brought
it really
as
was.
well?
Honestly, it genuinely brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, God, look at me, I'm
because
blooded.
and the fact that the Doctor, of course, the Doctor knows what she's thinking.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I tweeted that moment actually, because
I think you did.
I had to go back and just watch it again, and I took pictures with this. I'm a bit sad like that, and just tweet it out saying this was my moment for the whole of the episode. Out of so many, this one was really special, just to see that sort of connection and that almost closure, because the way Tegan left the TARDIS, I mean, she was sick of the violence and the horror, and she just couldn't take it anymore. She just had to go and get out. And then there was that moment where, typical Tegan, she sort of changes her mind, or we think she might have changed her mind, comes back, and of course the TARDIS is gone, and Peter's Doctor is distraught. He's absolutely distraught. And it's like, and it's one thing I like about this part of the series, is that all that history, all those, because it's in the old series of Doctor Who, it was very rare to see connections through different stories. I think it was only just before your era in the with the 5th and 6th, and then particularly you and the 7th Doctor, where we really saw those things being threaded as a whole narrative over multiple stories, and to see them getting picked up again, however many years later, 30, 40 years later, I don't even want to think about how many years later it is. I mean, it's just beautiful, and it's like there's an intelligence to the storytelling, there's a respect to the show's history, but all of it, instead of backwards looking, it's driven forward, it drives the story forward. And I absolutely love that. And we just get those beautiful moments with you and Sylvester sort of, having your connection, and Peter's Doctor and Janet just giving us that moment, that reconciliation, however slight, it just means so much. It was beautifully done.
I think the plot device with the AI hologram Doctor, and all the memories.
So good.
It's so good, and just
allowed that to happen.
Brilliant for it.
Yeah, well done, Chris.
It was so good. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I loved the bit where Joe comes in, the Doctor, and solves the whole thing, and foils the Master. Talking of which, we cannot step over the fact that Sacha's performance is just
wonderful.
Just unbelievable. And when we were doing our scene with him,
so when you said last time I saw you were half cat.
Yes, that's right. That scene was amazing. It was like watching a masterclass in acting, because what Sacha does is he experiments all the time when he's working. So he never gives exactly the same performance twice.
Right, yeah.
He's always just giving the director a little bit more of this, or an option here, without, because some actors do that, but they kind of, it means that the other actors don't know what's going on, and they don't. But Sacha very responsibly just tweaks his performance slightly, because he's playing, and he's a very playful actor. He's the quietest, most sort of humble, lovely man. You would never in a million years think that he could play a part like that.
Yeah.
I think one of my favourite scenes has got to be the Boney M dancing.
We love that. Yeah, definitely.
Some of the moves that he had in there just had me just cracking up. It was brilliant. But it's like you said, Sophie. Like he was being interviewed on one of the videos I watched last night, and he's so kind of quiet, like you say, and comes across as a really nice guy. And then you watch him as the Rasputin master, and then his science version, and then his sort of slightly emo looking one when he'd become the Doctor and stuff. And he's so different and so wild and manic in them. And, then you think back to what he's really like, and you think, oh, bloody hell, he's so good. And I said to Paul the other day, he's got some Big Finish stuff coming out maybe next year, I think. So really looking forward to seeing that, because I think there's so much with his Doctor, and he takes all the best parts of the previous ones, and his master, and he's just so mad and fun with it all, and he's just brilliant at it.
I love the way that he plays such a damaged person who in this one you get to see, oh yes, really wants to be loved, and he wants friends, and he
There's just that little.
He has no idea how to get friends.
No.
You know, he just, and then the Doctor says, "We were once friends."
That's right.
And it's actually sort of this sort of tragic story of somebody who is so damaged that they turn to the bad. And
well, he's acting up, isn't he, for attention, because like you say, he wants the friends, and he wants to be the Doctor's right hand man, you know. And then there's that little bit when he's regenerating back into her, and he says, don't leave me as I don't put me back, or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but it's only a tiny little bit, but I think it says quite a lot about the mask has slipped, and
and the
don't let me be me.
Pain, the awful pain of being him again. I love the way that he's just wearing all the Doctor's costumes as well.
I bet Ray had a great time designing that look. It's so good. What did you think of Jodie's regeneration? We were watching through tears, but it was so it was brilliant. It was so sort of positive and so right for her, you know, with the sun and, you know, the sunset.
It just makes you cry, doesn't it? You know, the joy of regenerating. You know, she's completely complete with her Doctor by the end. You know, she'll miss being that incarnation, but you know, just that lovely line, the blossomiest blossom. I love that. Really lovely. And that sort of sums up the Doctor's love and appreciation of Earth as well. And then it was on Durdle Door, which is
of course,
lovely,
Nick Cursor Fenric.
Fenric,
So
really.
Do you know, someone pointed out to us on Twitter, they said it was made extra special for them because that was on their doorstep, but that was the sun setting.
Rising.
Was it sunrise? Sun rising, so it actually would have been the other way around from where, you know, it was coming up for sun. You know, sunrise. So that was quite funny. They faked it a little bit there.
Yes.
So so what did you think when David Tennant reappeared at the end?
Well, it wasn't a surprise. You know, I mean, the fact that, you know, they've been seen filming all over the place this last year. I mean, I wondered whether it would be maybe Shooty and then go back to David, and then
that's kind of what I thought.
Because I think probably we're going to find out that the regeneration is unstable because of the forced regeneration.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Or hijacked. That's what I think.
Well, that was your theory, wasn't it? Hijacked by
love making theories about what's going to happen next in Doctor Who.
Yes, of course. That's
right. Part of the fun.
Last week, I listened to your audio with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor and the Classic Companions story, which was great fun. So you guys did that. You recorded in your cupboard, I think, didn't you? For that,
yes, I was in my airing cupboard. He was in an attic room somewhere. But I did see him recently, actually, because I went to see Good at the
in the West End.
In the West End. And he's absolutely brilliant, as he always is. And then afterwards, I was with some fans who I have known through the years, and they said to me, "Hey, what if we you go and get an autograph and say hello?" You know, and I thought, all right, just to please them, really. I thought, this would be quite funny. So we stood at the barrier and waited for him, and he came out and he started signing autographs, and he was coming down the queue, and he was just saying, "Oh, thank you very much," you know, and I put my hand out and I said, "Hi, David. My name's Sophie. I'm a huge fan of yours." And he said, "Oh, thank you very much." Oh, he went.
What?
It was really nice. He said, "Thank you so much for coming to see it."
Brilliant. So I've got a question here from I've got two questions actually for you from Ian McCardell on Twitter. So in that audio with the 10th Doctor, Ace acquired a K9 unit, didn't she?
Yes.
Which was brilliant. And a couple of people have asked us this actually. So do you think it's time that Ace led her own spin-off? And if CBBC called and wanted to do the new version of like Sarah Jane Adventures, what would your answer be?
Oh, like a shot. Try and stop me.
Yeah.
Yes, it's because over lockdown, I don't know if you remember, that Russell got in touch with me and said, could I do his sort of finish to the Sarah Jane Adventures? And I said, absolutely. He said, would you mind doing one line for me? I said, one line? Come on. Give me a bit more than that. So he wrote a lovely speech for me. But then I did end up with K9. So it's sort of hinting, isn't it? Hinting
it is, it's all there. The groundwork is laid, as it were.
Yes, exactly. No, I would love to do more, because I love the character of Ace. I don't know, that I've been playing her for such a long time now, and I think she's such a fantastic character.
Yeah. But I'll come back to Ian's question in a minute, but there's another one from Dom, who's Dom Torhu on Twitter, and she said the Power of the Doctor was a great episode to introduce Ace to younger and new viewers. So how did you feel about that? What's your takeaway from all the people watching that episode, perhaps discovering you for the first time? In fact, we've seen a few people, Paul, haven't we, on Twitter, who've gone back to watch your time with Sylvester for their first time in prep for seeing you on screen here. So.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah, it did make me wonder how newer viewers were going to, because you can't tell, can you? Because you can't unlearn what you've already learned.
Yeah.
So it'd be very interesting to see what newer viewers make of Ace and Tegan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can imagine that she'd still be pretty appealing to a young audience.
I mean, the response, that we've seen is, of course, just really positive, and people love Ace. And I think the kind of action heroine thing, and the confidence and everything, I think it appeals to people, and
well, yeah, definitely, and I think Ace is so inspirational, because she's just such a great character. She's so driven and so forward, so gung-ho, and as you both said, all the action and everything else is great. I mean, Freya, my daughter, she's 15 now. The first story she saw of yours, which I forced her to watch, I didn't, but we watched it.
He did.
It was might have said this before, actually, but it was Remembrance of the Daleks, and she just loved it. I'd said to her, should we watch one with Ace? Because she'd started getting into the history of the show a little bit and sort of understanding a bit more about previous companions, and I said, you're going to love Ace, and she did, and she decided at the end of it that Ace was now her favourite companion, like of all time. That was it, and it was a few years ago now. But so see her again, see you again playing Ace in this one, and again Freya she was loving it completely, because she's got the baseball bat. I knew she was going to get the baseball bat. I'd seen it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it was, but here it is. And that was great as well, because it was, again, we get that moment repeated, but with bigger explosions.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Talking of that bit, I love that scene with Graham.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We said that was
I was going to ask you about this.
Yes. I want to just read something to you here.
I know what he's going to say.
So Matthew on Twitter, who's that disciple of Brad, he said, how was it forming a partnership with Bradley, the duo we never knew we needed? Now, I think that Matthew tweeted this as well. I saw it this morning. But you know how people take names and combine them together? So Thasmin.
You've been shipped.
So he coined Grace, which Graham and Ace, and of course,
that's nice.
I like that.
And also, of course, Grace was Graham's wife, who died tragically.
It has a double meaning.
Yeah, in the morning fell to earth. So yeah, when Graham turned up, I was like, yes, brilliant, because there was rumours that Bradley was coming back.
I hadn't seen those. I was out of Twitter. Totally.
Yeah, you hadn't seen those. And then you introduced yourself. You said, I'm Ace, and he went, you certainly are. And I thought, oh, hello.
hello.
Yes, you are. He did it a few times. It was funny. And we different ways. There was one where he was just like, oh, yes, like very, very a bit salacious. And then there was one, one which was just like totally, she'd make mincemeat of me, which I think she would.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, Bradley and I have known each other for a very long time. We haven't seen each other for years and years, so it was actually quite difficult to get the acting in between the anecdotes. But it was such good fun, and he is such a great guy. The crew adore him. He's just such a great mate of everybody's. He knows exactly what he's doing. he's such a lovely guy to work with.
And it
but
was
I love the
perfect.
fact that AC sees straight through the character.
Oh, that was so funny.
With
It
the
was
psychic
like
paper and everything.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
what?
Friend
What
of
are you
the
on about, you
doctor's
idiot?
worried about
Yeah.
all the Daleks in their tunnel behind me.
Yeah.
Something. That was such good fun. It was
Yeah,
brilliant.
that was a lovely scene.
I mean, so much of this story was, I mean, I think I said on the podcast Jeff and I did afterwards, it's almost like every single kind of Doctor Who story all thrown into one. And the fact that there are so many people in it and there's so many little relationships and so many beautiful moments and so much fan service and yet so much story, and it all works. It all comes together like nothing else I've seen.
No one was shortchanged, were they? Everyone
Absolutely not.
Their star moment was.
I was the only thing is, I think for people who hadn't really seen the show for a long time, they had no idea what was going on. Like my eldest son, who hasn't watched for a while, we were texting each other all the way through.
Yeah.
And he's a very funny guy, and he was saying, you know, I have no idea what's going on. I know I like it, but you know, what's going on here then?
So
and
then demands a rewatch and digging back into the history, watching old shows. That's what you got to do.
My wife was going, "Who's that?" I said, "It's the Master." "Oh, right, okay." And then when Sacha later had his big beard, "Who's that?" "That's the Master as well." "Oh, right." And then later when he was in Jodie's outfit, "Who's that?" "That's the Master as well." And she wanted to ask about it. I was like, not now, there's too much going on. I'll explain afterwards.
Yeah, my mum was very confused. She, and lots of other people as well. But in a way, it sort of didn't matter because it was such a glorious romp, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah. So the question I had from Ian as well was, where's the strangest place Doctor Who has taken you?
Oh, that's a good question.
He says, interpret this any way you like, this question.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, golly, I can't think. Well, I mean, I never, ever thought that I would travel all over the world for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's just an extraordinary journey. And that's been amazing to go to all these incredible places in America and Australia, New Zealand. I can actually, that reminds me, I don't know whether I told you this before, but Sylvester, when his granddaughter was born a few years ago, his son and daughter-in-law live in Thailand, in Bangkok. Any normal person would have gone on a plane to see his granddaughter, but no, not Sylvester. He decides to go on the Trans-Siberian Railway.
Oh, wow.
To go that way round.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And his agent, who's an old friend of mine from university, actually, she did a sort of blog for him. He'd send her photos, and so this blog was going on, and and he said he went to Moscow and he had a wonderful time there, and then he anyway got back on the train, and he said he was somewhere in the middle of Siberia, and he got off to stretch his legs on the platform to be greeted by a whole load of Daleks.
No way.
Platform. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And because they'd been seeing the blog,
they
knew where he was. They went to see him. And then anyway, he travelled on, went all the way, got to Vietnam, stopped in Hanoi, and again there was a group of Doctor Who fans waiting to meet him, Vietnamese Doctor Who fans, and they said, "Oh, it's a real shame. We wanted to take you to our TARDIS cafe in Hanoi, but
there's a TARDIS cafe in Hanoi.
Didn't have time to go." So there you go.
Yeah,
so I mean, Doctor Who is everywhere.
Yeah,
it's truly global. That's the power of the Doctor, right there.
There's a chap that we talk with on Twitter called Cooper Hilly, and he lives in Australia. Do you remember this, Paul? He sent us.
You're
pictures.
Asking a lot now, mate. Me to remember
well, it was
anything.
probably a while ago, but he sent us pictures of somewhere. Like a school building or something, youth club or something, where he is in Australia, and he's a little bit remote, and there was like Cybermen and a Dalek and stuff painted on there, and
I do remember this.
When he was younger, he didn't really know what it was, but then obviously he discovered Doctor Who and kind of realized what it was. But he said, it's in the middle of, kind of nowhere built up, particularly in Australia, and they're here, and like you said, it's everywhere. It's amazing, really, isn't it?
It really is such an incredible program.
So I've got a question for you. Actually, I'll come back to that. I wanted to ask about your recent story that came out and in the Origins books.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was delighted because I got contacted through my agent by Penguin, and they said they were putting this book together of stories by companions, as many as they could find. In the end, only Katy and I did it, and were mad enough to do it. And I thought, yes, I'd love to do that, a story of young Ace before she meets the Doctor. And the story was almost, I knew exactly what I wanted to write. And I knew it would be a school story set around Perivale. And it kind of almost wrote itself. I just crammed as many kind of Easter eggs for fans in there as I possibly could. And yeah, the only thing was I was originally thinking that maybe it would be the Master at the end. But in the end, it turned out not to be. And I just had a bit of trouble kind of coming up with a sort of fully rounded ending. But I really enjoyed writing it with completely with the fans in mind. But also, I mean, I think it's meant for sort of young adult readers. So they wouldn't have to know the history of this. But then when you do find out, it really helps.
It adds more to it, isn't it? I suppose they're the best kind of stories actually that exist in their own little world where you don't need to know anything, but somehow grow and become more when you can fill in
inspire you enough to go out and discover more. So there was a question which was related to books. So this is from Giltster. You see people's names on Twitter and you're like, I don't know how to pronounce that, so hopefully I've read that right. But he said, how weird is it to have Ace's meeting with 13 contradicted in the TV show? So obviously what happened at Childhood's Ends.
Well, I think it never bothers me because Ace has had so many endings and so many, you get used to it, and everybody has their own interpretation. And it's whatever works. Whatever works at the time. And time is a funny old thing, as we know.
Well, you could headcanon it like it all happened, but then subsequently something happened and everyone's memories of that events in that Childhood's End were, erased. And then when they all met in Power of the Doctor, it was the first time for them, even though it wasn't. So,
exactly.
It don't really matter.
It's still canon. It's still canon.
Or it was a parallel universe, different timeline, as is explained in the book. So
always something.
I think Doctor Who fans are quite used now to kind of just making up or dealing with different continuities. We've got several versions of Atlantis, several different Marses. No one can still agree when Unit actually happened, although there have been attempts. And it's just it's just part of the fun, isn't it? It's just great fun.
So where do you think Ace would go now after Power of the Doctor? What would you like to see her do? And I'll just throw another one in there. Are there any plans for any more stories or audios or spin-off shows?
At the moment, I know nothing. I'm always the last person to hear. But so any offers gratefully received. But I'd love to. I would absolutely love to continue the adventure. On TV, so
it'd be great, wouldn't it? It really would.
It would be really great. I'd like to sort of for a new audience, a new generation as well.
I think there's the interest there. I've just seen another tweet that I wanted to read to you because I think you'll like it. This is
is this like live tweeting? Is it
no,
right now,
I saved it, but I'm flicking through some that I saved from last night. This is from Ear Per Girl 67. Probably not how you pronounce
Listeners,
it.
if you should see Jeff's face trying to pronounce that, it was really something. I wish I'd screenshot.
I looked very confused there. She said, I'm not sure I have a coherent question, but as a 55-year-old woman, if you could just let Sophie know that watching 3 women in my age range tearing around, kicking ass was amazing. Props to Janet and Gemma as well.
Let me tell you something. On that day, we were standing there in that by the tables. They were setting up a shot, and we were chatting away to each other and having a lovely time. And I just stopped and I said, "Hey, everybody, look at this. There are 5 women in this scene." I said, 3 of us are over the age of 50.
Yeah.
And where else, in which other program ever, would you find this? We're not talking about relationships or shopping. We're saving the universe.
Yeah.
And everyone just went, oh yeah. You know, it was a moment. It was a really moving moment where we all suddenly realized, oh yes, look. And then there was another moment which I hadn't spotted until the transmission, which was the scene in the sort of forced regeneration room with when Joe Doctor comes in, and there wasn't one white face there. I thought, where has that happened before? And isn't that amazing? You know, this is the way forward, folks.
Quite right. It is. It's wonderful. I mean, the show has always been very sort of, it's always been diverse. It's always tried to be representative. I think in the old days it didn't always quite get there, but at least it was aspiring towards it. And now we're in a place where, you know, these things can happen, and it's almost like you don't think about it until you do stop and think about it, and you realize, my gosh, this is, you know, this is what's going on. I mean, Freya, again, that scene you're referring to with the three of you, you know, you and Janet and Gemma in the room, she's like, yes, they passed the Bechdel test, brilliant. She's, you know, she loves all of that, because for her to see women being so vital and you know, to a story on TV and represented, and just being there doing a thing without all this other rubbish to go with it, you know, like, oh, they've got to be talking about some guy, you know, there's got to be a romantic thing there, they can't do this without doing that. It's like, no, just be the character and give the character a degree of, you know, actual respect and everything that goes with it. I'm probably just ranting at the moment, but you're right, Sophie. It's so good to see. And what other show could
the young people know, and they're much more attuned to that than we are, and it's great to listen to young people. My youngest son is 19, and he's gay, and he's a drag queen, and he and he, when Shooty was announced, he came running downstairs and he said, Mum, I'm going to start watching Doctor Who now. And then he said, and all my friends are really excited. They'd say, what's this Doctor Who thing? It's going to bring a whole new audience to Doctor Who, and a whole new life to it that we have, us old people, have no idea about, really.
I know. It's going to be fun to watch it unfold, and to kind of see a whole generation now of people discovering what we know is so brilliant about it, and watching the whole thing evolve, like you said, even further. You know, it always excites me about Doctor Who is the stories I haven't seen yet. You know, I mean, I love the past of it. I love the fact it's still going on in the present. But I've always said on here, the thing that really gets Doctor Who for me working is the fact it is constantly evolving, constantly changing, always moving forward. And when I get to the stage, like even, you know, last week on, you know, Sunday before the episode aired, and I thought, I've got no idea what's going to happen next, other than the Doctor's going to regenerate and Ace and Tegan are going to be in it. That's all I know. And, you know, there's how it's going to unfold, I've no idea. And to get in, you know, having gone through the 90s where there was literally no new Doctor Who apart from the New Adventures and the comic strips, great though they were, now we're getting new stories on TV being told with such intelligence and such respect and such energy. It's really brilliant. And I love the fact that we've got a whole generation of people who haven't even seen any of this stuff yet, who are going to discover it, and this is going to become their Doctor Who. I love that.
But, you know, Jodie said it, she was regenerating. I can't wait to see what comes next, isn't she? And, you know, which is, you know, represents all of us watching. But then anyone who starts watching it with Shooty or you know, comes back with David or whatever, they've got 60 years worth of stuff to discover as well. You know, it's just keeps giving, doesn't it? You know, you go, oh wow, I've loved this Doctor Who. What do you mean there's another 14 of them, you know, to watch and, you know, enjoy? You know, it's brilliant.
In my day, there were only 4 previous ones from our started watching it, but it's such good fun.
What else are you working on at the moment, Sophie? What's next for you?
Well, I've got lots of conventions coming up.
Yay!
Yes,
when's your next one?
Great. I'm going to Northumberland this weekend to do a screening of there's there's a wonderful place called Allendale, really lovely little market town. And in it, this incredible guy called Neil Cole has excavated his Georgian basement and made a classic museum of sci-fi.
Oh.
And he renovates old costumes, props, and so on. And he kind of is keeping them, preserving them for posterity. It's a tiny little museum, but it's absolutely stuffed full of incredible things.
Wow. Was he covered in Doctor Who magazine a little while
that's
ago?
right.
Was
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to go and see him.
And we're also having a screening this weekend of Keith Barnfather, whose real-time his company has been going for years and years and years, and does myth makers and all sorts of original drama and stuff.
Oh my goodness, I remember those.
There's a screening of we've done some documentaries about Doctor Who exhibitions, and so we're having the first screening of the latest one of those.
Awesome.
So there's that, and then I'm going off to America with Janet and Peter, and that would be fun. We're going to LI Who in Long Island, and then I'm going to Chicago TARDIS.
Oh yes, so we spoke to Lauren Cornelius recently. She's going to that one as well.
Oh, great!
Yeah, she does some big Finnish stuff. Yeah.
And then we're going to Janet and I are going to Telford to do the Wales Comic Con in I think that's first weekend of December. And so it goes on, back to America in the new year. And then all my other stuff I do as well. I was
going to say, have you got time for any other stuff? That's pretty packed.
Yeah, I'm doing an audio book today in my cupboard. It's a Barbara Cartland. So
Oh yes,
different.
Nice to do different stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's good.
It's wonderful.
Actually, can I ask that? Do you read the books before you do the audio, so you get a feel for the narrative voice, and you can come up with some idea of how to approach it?
I've got much more professional in my old age.
Just pick it up and wing it.
I used to be terrible like that. Yeah, I did used to do that. But actually, no, I do read the book and I have a think about, where's this character from? And there's a few pronunciations, things that you need to get sorted, people's names and things.
Yeah.
So yes, I do. I don't prepare as some people prepare amazingly, and they kind of have different colours and highlights for different things.
Oh, my other daughter would do that. She's into her highlight pens.
I don't do that, but I do read and think.
Yeah. Get some idea of how you're going to approach it, and everything else. But you do it all from your cupboard still. You don't do studio.
I do go into studio. Yes. It depends on where the company is and how long the book is. And it's actually very nice to go back into studios. Gosh, I've missed it so much over lockdown. It's lovely to have somebody else in charge of whether somebody's flushing the loo in the background.
Stop it online reading.
This is a good thing about doing this one during the day, actually, because I've got nobody in the house now. They've gone off and left me for the day, so there's just a cat who's hiding under the bed. So that's always a good thing.
To flush the loo,
no, you never know. But no, probably not.
You mentioned that museum where the guys done the costumes and things, and it reminded me of a place called Milky Way down in Cornwall, which is it's like a mini theme park type thing, and the guy who owns it has a little museum section in there where he's got a TARDIS and he's got various Doctor Who costumes and Star Wars things and all sorts of stuff. And it's so random, but it's quite fun. And we went there a few years ago with my son, and I said to him, look, there's this little bit, showed him the little brochure for, we'll go and have a look at it all. And he was sort of really excited about it. He didn't really kind of know much about Doctor Who, but we got there and he saw the TARDIS and he thought, that's brilliant. Then there was a silence there, with the kind of, the white face and the suit and everything. And he started crying and he was like, no, I don't like it. So we had to leave that bit, and I went back and had a quick look around a bit later. But yeah, he wasn't feeling it. I think he was too young for it.
I think it can be very scary. Yeah. I'm always amazed, and it's very individual with children, because I was very scared as a child. I easily got scared by things, and I had nightmares and things like that. I remember going to we were taken every year to see the Nutcracker, the ballet, and I was terrified of the rats. And I sort of almost had hallucinations and saw rats in my bedroom running around and things like that. So obviously vivid imagination, but some children thrive on it, don't they? They absolutely love it. Like I can't watch horror movies or things that are frightening, and yet some people absolutely love it.
Taking their stride.
Yeah, it just depends on what kind of person you are.
That's so interesting.
It's quite individual.
We watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids recently, and there's a fight with an ant and a scorpion in it, and the ant gets killed. And my son, he got a little bit upset about it, and he was quite sad about the ant. But my twin, who's the slightly older one, she went, "Daddy," she's 4.5, "Daddy, can we watch that fight again?" and we were like, "Why? What did you like?" And she said, "I like the scorpion." And we were like,
watch her,
okay, should we be worried about this? But it didn't faze her at all. And
it's so funny, isn't it?
And we watched one of the Harry Potters recently, and again, my son, he didn't like the bit with the spiders in the forest, but Phoebe, she saw it was brilliant, and she wanted to see the mandrakes again and the screaming plants and stuff, and and then the other twin not bothered about it. She just wasn't really paying any attention to it. So it's like I said, so it's fascinating.
Very individual. I always remember when I used to do a program called Tiny and Crew for the Children's Channel, and Tiny was this big sort of furry monster thing, very cute on telly. But we used to go and do toy fairs and things at Earl's Court, big shows. And of course Tiny wasn't tiny, because Tiny was like my friend massive. Rachel in a suit, and so as tall as me. So, but I could never understand these mums and dads who would push their tiny children towards this thing, and their child would be screaming their head off, because of course something you've seen this big on the telly, suddenly this massive monster.
It does freak you out, actually. On that, I remember when I went to a toy shop, and I probably would have been about 9 or 10, and it was when The Empire Strikes Back came out, and Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett, was doing a tour of toy shops to push the merch in, and he came to Middlesbrough, where I was living at the time. And me and my mate, we used to go to this toy shop. We used to buy the little Star Wars figures, and we knew he was going to be there. They'd advertised it, and we couldn't wait. We're counting down the days when we're going to see actual Boba Fett in the toy shop. And I kid you not, we went there, and all the excitement and everything, the whole crowd of kids, and he's walking around, he's shaking hands and patting people and picking them up and stuff. And I was just freaked out. I couldn't get close. It was like, because he was massive. Really tall guy, really big, really fearsome suit. That suddenly I'm there again, and I just remember freezing completely. Like I said, I was only 42 at the time, so
I was going to say this was last week, wasn't it?
But you're right. It is funny how these things. My oldest daughter can't deal with weeping angels.
Really?
She's off at uni now. She can't deal with those. And Freya has a thing with the gas masks. Since that episode, the Doctor Dances Empty Child, she cannot look at any gas mask now on any situation, any TV show, in or any kind of mask which does something similar to the face. She freaks out totally, purely because of that Doctor Who episode, which is great.
I remember when that went out, and I don't know whether we were watching it a bit later. We'd recorded it, but it was dark, and the kids were in bed, and my husband and I were sitting downstairs in the dark watching it. And then all of a sudden I heard this little noise upstairs, and I realised it was William, and I don't know how old he was, but he was small at the time. And I said to Vince, "Okay, let's just pause. I better go." And I walked out, and we had a very steep steps of stairs going upstairs. And then in the window, framed at the top, was this little figure of William, and he was going, "Mummy, Mummy," and I suddenly felt really frightened. I could just see this silhouette of my child going, "Mummy."
Oh my goodness! It's funny how it gets you, isn't it? Like that.
It is funny.
And do you know, I mean, again, it's bringing it back to Doctor Who. It's like that's what Doctor Who has always been good at, tapping into those primal fears that we have as children and extending them into our adult life as well. So we never forget them. We never forget that thrill. It's eternal.
My wife says it's not scary, Doctor Who.
That's what my mum says.
Yeah, you're silly for you know. And I said, well, it may not be scary like for us as adults, you know, per se, but you can understand the origin of the fear behind something in it, and you know why people would be scared of some of the, you know, the creatures and things in it.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
You know, I definitely think, you know, that there's episodes where, you know, it's been unsettling and things. We talked recently, Paul, about it was the Capaldi episode, Listen, and there's a blanket rising up on the bed behind them. I don't know if you remember that one, Sophie. And that's all it is. But it's the idea that there's something under there, you know, and
that's
like that
creepy AF.
One of Moffat's, you know, skills was making you scared of things, you know, like that.
Yes, very, very clever.
Did you do the Time Fracture show in London, Sophie? Did you get a chance
Yes,
to
I
do
did.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was great because a friend's son had just got into Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so she said, I don't suppose there's any chance that you'd come along. And I said, oh, I can do better than that. And I emailed them and they got us all tickets.
Brilliant.
And it was really, really lovely.
Fantastic.
But it was great. But he was he said, I hope they don't have weeping angels.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. And we went on the bus, you know, we got there and he was going, oh, I really hope they don't have weeping angels.
Please,
and then the person who was guiding us around said to him, he was the only kind of young person there, said, Angus, you know, you stay at the back and make sure that we're and I just thought, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I said to my husband, I said, Vince, just go and stand behind Angus, because I knew that the weeping angels were coming.
Yeah.
And he'd have been completely and utterly freaked out.
It went all cold in that corridor, didn't it? And
yes.
then the lights flickered, and then the angels appeared, and then the lights went off, and then back on, and they moved. And I remember kind of like, you know, we all start running, and I was kind of laughing because it was so good, but you know, still quite scary at the same time to be in that situation for real, you know. And the whole show was brilliantly done, I thought. And,
it was so good. It was funny for me because it was like being on set in an episode, but I didn't know what the lines were, you know. It was
that's quite frightening in itself for an actor, isn't it?
Yes, it's like one of those nightmares that you have as an actor.
Turn up on set and got no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Corpsing on it.
We were lucky. We went into the Davros bit. Did you?
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
No, we went into Da Vinci's workshop, and
oh yes.
He had drawings of like Zygons and various other things, and you know, he was kind of showing them to people, and I said, oh, that's a Zygon, and you know, that's a silence and stuff, and he obviously thought, oh, brilliant, you kind of know what you were talking about here. So we started having this conversation together. But,
that's great.
I'd heard Davros was there, but no, I didn't get to see him, which was a bit of a shame.
He was brilliant.
Was he?
The actor playing him was really, really good. And that was funny though, because I was interacting with Davros, and I wasn't quite sure whether to be me or Ace. It really did my head in.
So what was it? Was it some kind of combination of the two things in the end?
Yes, in the end it was.
Sophie Ace.
Yeah, Sophie Ace. We encountered a Cyberman in it, and it starts chasing you around the room. It's sort of the sort of alien villagey type bit that you go in at one point.
Yes.
And my wife ended up running up a ramp that they had that kind of looped around, and she thought I was behind her, and she turned around and this Cyberman was coming out of his,
wow.
know, and she said I did actually kind of, you know, my heart skipped a beat for a moment, and she was thinking, where's Jeff, you know, and I was behind thinking, I can't get her, I can't get back to her, you know. But the whole thing was so well done, and
it was so good.
We waited 2.5 years, I think, to go, because you know, buying the tickets. We bought them, and then obviously we went into lockdown, and it was bumped, but it was so worth it in the end. And I think it's moving somewhere else now, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah,
it deserves to go somewhere else.
It might be going nearer to where you are, Paul. So
that'd be good if it is. I'll catch it.
Yeah, you might have a chance.
Oh yes, you must see it if you can.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. Do you need to go, Sophie?
I'm just looking at the time, actually. I better get into my cupboard and get Barbara Cartland in.
Oh, wow, it's 11:30. I didn't realise.
No, it's lovely to chat. It's great. Could stay all day.
Yeah.
Oh, dear, we really could. It was great fun.
When we talked to Colin, we said, we've got sort of 45 minutes. We ended up talking about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, he was really generous as well, wasn't he?
Really kind of him. I'm going to see him on Friday. He's doing Hound of the Baskervilles in Red Hill.
Well, if you see him, send my love, won't you?
That's good stuff. Brilliant. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time again.
It's
been wonderful
pleasure.
talking to you. Yeah, and then we'll do it again soon. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Good.
Well, good luck recording today. Hope it goes all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, and
all the very best, Sophie. It's been absolute delight, and we look forward to speaking to you again and seeing you on TV again.
Yes.
The campaign for Ace's further adventures starts right here, my friends. So come on, listeners, let's make it happen.
Yay!
We all know we want it. Brilliant. Thank you, Sophie.
See you.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. All the best.
Bye.